It was just an ordinary day at the hotel, or at least that's how it started. My name's Isabella, and I manage the place, which means I'm always on my toes. The check-ins and check-outs never end, and neither do the complaints. You'd think I'd get used to it by now. I was at the front desk when this guy came striding over with an annoyed look. He was the picture of sophistication. Fancy suit, slicked back hair, and a scowl that could cut glass. Without a word, he slapped his phone on the counter and glared at me as if I'd personally wronged him. The state of my room is unacceptable. Who's responsible for this? He snapped, his voice like ice. I took a deep breath, putting on my best customer service smile. I'm really sorry about that, sir. I'm Isabella, the manager. Let me fix this for you right away. He didn't relax one bit, still eyeing me with suspicion. I hope so. I was about to call the owner. What's your name again? Isabella, I repeated calmly. Let's get this sorted. How about I upgrade you to one of our best rooms free of charge to make up for the inconvenience? As we walked toward the new room, I could see him starting to unwind a bit. He let out a sigh and finally spoke in a softer tone, scratching the back of his neck. Sorry for blowing up like that. I'm Peter. Been on the road for weeks, and it's wearing me down. No worries, Peter, I replied, opening the door to one of our top rooms. We all have days like that. Let's just make sure the rest of your stay is pleasant. He looked around the upgraded room, and his tense expression shifted to relief. This will do nicely. Thanks, he said, with a small smile. Seeing him calm down was a relief for me too. As I finished the paperwork, we started chatting. Peter turned out to be a cryptocurrency investor, traveling the world to enjoy the rewards of his hard work. But he admitted, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. I nodded, handing him his new room key. I can imagine. But hey, at least you get to meet new people all the time, right? He chuckled, yeah, like hotel managers who know how to handle grumpy guests. I laughed. It's part of the charm of the job. Just before heading to his room, he paused. Hey, Isabella, would you like to grab dinner later? I owe you for putting up with my attitude. The invitation caught me off guard, but he seemed sincere, and I found myself smiling. Sure, Peter. That sounds nice. And so, that's how I ended up having dinner with a hotel guest. We talked about everything from the ups and downs of cryptocurrency to our favorite pizza toppings. He was easygoing, laughed a lot, and surprisingly, he didn't seem to mind the everyday chaos that came with my job. After that unexpected dinner, I found myself sharing a bit about my hectic day with Peter. Surprisingly, that one dinner turned into many more moments together. It wasn't like some cheesy romance. It felt genuine and real. After my shifts at the hotel, we'd sometimes grab a late-night snack or just wander around, talking until the early hours. One evening, we ended up in this small dive bar. It was the kind of place where everyone seemed to know each other, and the cold beer was always flowing. We tucked ourselves into a corner booth, and the noise around us faded into a quiet hum. Peter sat there, peeling the label off his beer bottle, a habit of his whenever something was on his mind. You know, Isabella, he started, looking down at the bottle. I've traveled a lot, seen a lot of places. But honestly, life on the road can get pretty lonely. I took a sip of my drink, watching him closely. Then why keep doing it? Why not settle down somewheres? He let out a short, dry laugh. Settle down and do what? Invest in real estate, get a dog, and mow the lawn on Fridays? That's not me. I chuckled, shaking my head. It doesn't have to be that predictable, you know. But I get it. Freedom's hard to give up. For a while, we just sat there, comfortable in the silence, listening to the buzz of the bar around us. I hadn't planned on it, but I started opening up about my own life, sharing more than I'd shared with anyone in a long time. After my parents died, it was just me and my little sister, Cheryl, I began, almost surprising myself with the words. I had to grow up fast and take care of both of us. I put everything on hold. Her schooling, her life, it all depended on me. Peter turned to me, his face serious and attentive. That's heavy, Isabella. It must have been tough, taking on so much. Yeah, I said, shrugging, trying to keep things from getting too intense. It was rough. But you play the hand you're dealt, right? He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. You've done well for yourself, though, he said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Managing a whole hotel, paying the bills, making sure Cheryl had a pretty normal life. That's impressive. I laughed, genuinely this time. I guess. Just doing what I had to. Peter leaned in a little closer, his gaze steady and sincere. You're remarkable, you know that? Stop it, I replied playfully, swatting his arm, though his words warmed me in a way I hadn't expected. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen. To lighten the moment, I turned the conversation back to him. So, what about you? Ever think about having a family? Peter shifted in his seat, looking a bit uncomfortable. Family. That's complicated. Let's just say my parents and I don't see eye to eye. They have their empire, and I have my life on the road. I raised an eyebrow. An empire, huh? I nudged him playfully. An empire, huh? Sounds fancy. He gave a small smile, shaking his head. Not as fancy as it sounds. It's more like a lot of expectations and feeling tied down. We ended up talking for hours that night. Opening up seemed to break down walls between us, and for the first time, I felt like I was getting to know the real Peter. Before I knew it, the bartender was stacking chairs, a not-so-subtle hint that it was time to go. Things with Peter were going well, but he always kept a little distance when serious topics came up, like where our relationship was heading. Then one evening, everything shifted. I had invited him over for dinner at my apartment. It was his first time seeing where I lived, other than just picking me up for dates. As he walked around, he looked at everything with genuine curiosity. This is nice, really nice, Isabella, he said, sounding almost surprised. I laughed, spreading my arms. What did you think? That I lived in a shack or something? He chuckled. I don't know. I guess I hadn't really thought about it. My parents left us in a decent spot when they passed away. We sold their house, and I bought this apartment for Cheryl and me. I made the first payment, and now it's all ours. Peter nodded, clearly impressed. You've done really well for yourself. I mean, really well. The evening went on, and after dinner, we settled on the couch, sharing a bottle of wine. That's when he dropped the bombshell. Isabella, I've been doing a lot of thinking about us. My heart started to race. I looked at him, raising an eyebrow. Oh yeah? And what have you been thinking? He took my hand, his eyes meeting mine with a look I hadn't seen before. I love you, Isabella. I know I said I wasn't looking to settle down, but with you it's different. I can't imagine being anywhere else but here, with you. His words hit me like a wave. Just a few weeks ago, he was all about freedom and not being tied down, and now this? But as I looked into his eyes, I could see he was serious. Are you sure, Peter? This isn't just the moment talking, is it? He shook his head, squeezing my hand. I've never been more serious about anything, Isabella. Will you marry me? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. My mind raced, but my heart had already decided. Before I could think twice, I found myself saying yes. Yes, I'll marry you. And just like that, we were engaged. A couple of weeks later, he surprised me with a beautiful ring. Simple but elegant. It felt surreal, like I was stepping into a dream I didn't want to wake up from. Peter dove into wedding planning almost immediately. You deserve something amazing, Isabella. Let's have a wedding no one will ever forget, he said one evening as we went over budgets and venue options. When he brought up the financial plan, though, I felt a bit uneasy. I've got all the contacts, Peter said confidently. I'll handle the arrangements. You just provide the funds, say, $60,000, and I'll make sure our honeymoon is at the most luxurious hotel in the world. After that, we can get a house together. Hearing the amount made me pause. It was a lot, almost everything I had. But seeing the excitement on his face made me push aside my hesitation. He looked so thrilled, so certain. Okay, if you think that's best. I trust you, Peter, I replied, and then transferred the money to his account, letting him take the reins on planning. Watching him dive into the wedding arrangements made my heart swell. Here was a man who had appeared in my life out of nowhere, but now felt like he had always been meant to be here. Every night, I went to bed with a smile, feeling lucky and grateful for how perfectly everything was falling into place. As the wedding plans moved forward, I felt it was time for Peter to meet my sister, Cheryl. She was the only family I had left, and her opinion mattered, even though she could be a bit too blunt sometimes. We decided to meet up at the local diner where Cheryl worked as a waitress. As soon as we walked in, the bell above the door jingled, and Cheryl spotted us right away. Her face lit up, and she waved us over. "Hey, sis," she called out with a big grin. Her gaze shifted to Peter, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "And you must be the famous fiancé I've heard all about." Peter smiled, that charming smile of his, and extended his hand to her. "And you must be the beautiful sister I've heard so much about. You two could be twins." I rolled my eyes, feeling both proud and slightly embarrassed. All right, cut the charm, mister." Cheryl laughed, leaning in with a playful look. "So, Peter, are you as rich as they say?" I felt my cheeks heat up. "Cheryl," I hissed, mortified by her directness. She always knew just how to push my buttons. But Peter just laughed, taking it all in stride. "Well, I've done all right," he replied smoothly, "but Isabella's right. It's not about the money. It's the love that matters." Cheryl raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. "Smooth talker, huh? I like him." Over the next few weeks, Peter continued to be the perfect fiancé, charming, attentive, and always making me feel like I was the most important person in his life. He even managed to handle Cheryl's playful teasing without missing a beat, which was a relief. Then, one day amid the wedding whirlwind, my best friend Lauren and I decided to visit a bridal shop to find my wedding dress. The shop was filled with silk, lace, and satin, a dream come true for any bride. As I stood in front of the mirror, being zipped into a gorgeous gown, the reality of it all started to hit me. This was really happening. Suddenly, I heard a familiar laugh coming from the next booth. Curious, I peeked around the curtain and there, twirling in front of a mirror, was Cheryl, in a wedding dress. "Cheryl," I gasped, unable to hide my surprise. "What on earth are you doing in a wedding dress?" I stared at her, trying to wrap my mind around what she'd just said. "Are you serious? Is there something you need to tell me?" I asked, half amused and half concerned. Cheryl gave a little shrug, her smile crooked but distant. "Just let it be a surprise," she said, her tone light but with something underneath. Lauren chuckled, watching the exchange. "Looks like someone's caught the wedding bug." We all laughed it off, thinking Cheryl was just being her usual, playful self. I turned back to my reflection, adjusting the dress and refocusing on my own big day. But the image of Cheryl in that wedding dress stayed in the back of my mind. I brushed it off, convincing myself it was nothing. That day started like any other until it suddenly took a turn. After breakfast, Peter left in a hurry, mumbling something about an important meeting he couldn't miss. In his rush, he left his phone on the coffee table. A few minutes after he walked out, it started buzzing repeatedly. Curiosity got the better of me. I figured it might be something urgent about the wedding, or maybe work-related. "Probably just a buddy checking in," I muttered to myself, picking up the phone. Peter had never bothered with a password, which I'd always found a bit casual. In hindsight, maybe that was my first clue. When the screen lit up, I saw a flood of messages, all from one contact, Cheryl. My heart skipped a beat. Why is he texting Cheryl so much? I thought, telling myself not to jump to conclusions. But the feeling gnawed at me, and I opened the messages. The first one hit me like a punch. "I can't wait to be with you forever," Cheryl had written. "Forget Isabella. It's you I want standing beside me." My heart started to race as I read Peter's reply. "Soon, love. We just need to play along a little longer." She's so clueless, it's almost funny. I scrolled down, each message cutting deeper than the last. They were talking about the wedding, about me, about how they planned to use my money to start their life together once I was out of the picture. And then, the final blow. Cheryl was pregnant, with Peter's baby. The room spun, and I felt a wave of nausea. My baby sister, the one I had practically raised and supported, was betraying me in the worst way possible. And Peter, the man who had promised to love and protect me, was orchestrating this entire betrayal. An hour later, Peter came back, looking flustered. "Hey, babe, did you see my phone?" he asked, leaning down to kiss my cheek like everything was perfectly normal. I forced a fake smile, the same one I'd used countless times at the hotel to hide frustration. You left it here, I said sweetly, handing it to him. You must be slipping, leaving your lifeline behind. He took it, scrolling through his messages, probably checking if he'd missed anything critical. But I could see the faint look of relief on his face, thinking he'd dodged a bullet. Little did he know I had seen everything, and my mind was already racing, planning how to confront both of them. I watched him closely, trying to read any hint that he might suspect I knew the truth. But Peter was utterly clueless, wrapped up in his own lies. He laughed at something on his phone screen, and I felt my fists clench. Go ahead, laugh it up, Peter. Enjoy this moment while you still can. Later that night, as we lay in bed, he was all smiles, talking about our future together. It's going to be perfect, Isabella. This wedding, our life, you'll see. I turned to him, my heart torn between love and betrayal. I'm sure it will be, I murmured, letting him pull me close. Absolutely perfect. He drifted off to sleep, but I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with plans. I wasn't about to be the victim in this twisted game. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one they'd never forget. But first, I had to keep up the act of the loving fiancé just a little longer. Finally, the wedding day arrived, and with it, the stage for the performance of a lifetime. The grand hall was filled with flowers, and the guests were seated, whispering excitedly, completely unaware of the drama about to unfold. As we stood at the altar, just as we were about to exchange vows, the doors at the back of the hall burst open. Cheryl, wearing a wedding dress of her own, stormed down the aisle like she owned the place. The crowd gasped, turning to watch her as she marched right up to us, shoving me aside with a theatrical flair. I'm the one who deserves to be here, not you, Isabella, she announced loudly, her voice ringing through the hall. I'm having his baby. She turned to Peter. Tell her, tell everyone. Peter let go of my hand and laughed, a harsh, ugly sound that echoed through the room. Thanks, Isabella, for setting up this amazing wedding. It's perfect for me and your sister. The guests gasped, their faces frozen in shock. Peter continued, looking pleased with himself. Why don't you take a seat, Isabella? Enjoy the show as a guest. His words were meant to break me, but I just smiled calmly, stepping back with grace. Of course, I said, my voice steady. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Their smug smiles faded, confusion flickering in their eyes as I walked away, depriving them of the scene they'd expected. I sat down, crossed my legs, and watched the mess unfold before me, like a spectator in my own life. As Peter and Cheryl turned to face the priest and prepared to exchange their vows, another interruption stopped everything. A woman, clearly older and filled with fury, stormed down the aisle. Peter, she shouted, her voice slicing through the silence, and I saw Peter's face go pale. The entire room went dead quiet as the woman reached the altar, her face twisted in anger. I'm his wife, she declared, her voice shaking with rage. And the mother of his child, which he conveniently forgot, along with the vows he made to me. Cheryl's face drained of color, her legs seeming to buckle beneath her. She looked from Peter to the woman, then back at me, silently pleading for help, but there was nothing left to say. I simply leaned back, watching the chaos play out, feeling strangely free as my life unraveled, piece by piece, right in front of me. I stood up, my voice calm and steady, cutting through the noise. I have a little surprise for everyone too, I said, each word sharp and deliberate. Peter isn't just a cheater, he's broke. A private investigator confirmed that he's drowning in debt. His investments failed, and, worst of all, he's been stealing from his own family. The room erupted in shocked whispers, filling the air with the thrill of scandal. Peter's wife, now furious beyond words, turned her gaze to Cheryl. And you, she shouted, advancing toward my sister. How dare you? Cheryl stumbled back, tears streaming down her face as the full weight of her betrayal sank in. I watched, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. After weeks of pain and careful planning, Seeing everything unravel felt like justice, though it left a hollow ache inside. Peter's wife continued, her voice harsh and unrelenting. He's left us with nothing, and you think he's going to build a life with you? Wake up, girl. Cheryl sobbed, her dream wedding unraveling into a nightmare. Peter tried to say something, desperate to salvage the situation, but his wife slapped him across the face, the sharp crack echoing through the hall and leaving everyone in stunned silence. As people were just beginning to absorb the chaos, the doors burst open again. This time, it was Peter's parents. They stepped inside, their faces filled with disbelief and disappointment. His father, a stern man in a well-tailored suit, scanned the room, his gaze finally landing on Peter. "I am utterly ashamed of you, Peter," his father's voice boomed, silencing the crowd. His gaze was hard and unyielding, as if he could force regret upon his son with a single look. His mother, a frail woman clutching a handkerchief, had tears streaming down her face. "My son, how could you?" she sobbed. "This is not how we raised you. Deceiving these women is unforgivable." Peter stood there, his usual charm crumbling under the weight of his family's public scorn. He opened his mouth to speak, maybe to explain, but his father cut him off coldly. "You are no longer part of this family's legacy. Consider yourself without an inheritance." The crowd erupted again, guests pulling out their phones, eager to capture the dramatic downfall of what had once been planned as my perfect wedding. In the weeks that followed, I took Peter to court. I sued him to recover the $60,000 he had conned out of me. I had foolishly handed over the money for the wedding, trusting Peter completely. But with clear evidence in hand, the judge ruled in my favor, ordering Peter to repay every single penny. Shortly after, Peter's wife filed her own lawsuit, seeking damages for emotional distress, deception, and alimony for their daughter. I attended every court session, feeling a bittersweet sense of justice as I watched Peter face the consequences of his lies. To my surprise, Cheryl was there by his side, supporting the man who had almost destroyed me. One day, outside the courtroom, she confronted me, her face full of hurt and defiance. "He loves me, Isabella, and I love him. We're going to get through this, no matter what you or anyone else thinks," she said, her voice shaking but determined. I looked at her, the sister I had once loved deeply, now seeming like a stranger. "Love? You call this love?" I asked, my voice thick with disbelief. "He used both of us, Cheryl. Open your eyes, he's a liar." "But he's changed," she insisted, her voice trembling. "He'll change for me. You just couldn't see the good in him." I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Good? Cheryl, there's no good in him. He's a con artist, and you're just another one of his victims." As I walked away, a heavy weight settled over me. The lies, betrayal, and endless court battles had taken their toll, yet I felt a strange sense of closure. The man who had once promised to love me had shown his true self, and I had exposed him for what he truly was. The final chapter with Peter didn't end in a grand spectacle, but in quiet resignation as he slipped out of town, leaving a trail of broken promises and unpaid debts. Before disappearing, he had somehow managed to settle his debts with me and his legal wife, perhaps hoping to clear his slate. But he left the biggest mess behind with Cheryl, my sister, who was now alone and pregnant. A few weeks after Peter vanished, Cheryl showed up at my apartment. It was the first time I'd seen her since the courthouse drama. She stood there, a shadow of her former confident self, her eyes downcast. "Isabella, I need help," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He left me, and I'm going to have his baby. I have nothing." The old me, the one who had raised her, might have opened the door and welcomed her back without a second thought. But too much had happened, too much hurt to easily forget. "You have the apartment," I said quietly, my voice firm but not unkind. "And you'll have the baby. That's a start. You're not on the streets, Cheryl. You're not helpless." "But I don't have any money, Isabella. The bills, the baby. I need help," she pleaded, desperation filling her eyes. I shook my head, the decision solid in my heart, even as it hurt to see her like this. You made your choice, Cheryl. Now you have to make another. You can figure this out. She stared at me, realization dawning in her eyes, and I closed the door. I knew it was time for her to find her own strength, just as I had. I had to be strong when Mom and Dad died, I said, my voice steady, and I had to be strong when you betrayed me. Cheryl broke down, covering her face with her hands, her body trembling. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was in love. I really did. Love doesn't make you betray your family, I replied, my words firm. Love doesn't make you stand by while I was humiliated. If you loved me, you would have stayed away from him, or told me the truth before everything fell apart. Cheryl looked up, desperation filling her eyes. So, that's it? You're just going to turn me away? Yes, I answered, my voice unwavering. You're going to walk away from here and take care of your child, just like I took care of you. I turned, walked back into my apartment, and closed the door, shutting out her cries with a final, echoing slam. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, but I knew it was necessary. After that day, life gradually returned to a quiet, peaceful normal that I hadn't realized I missed. I threw myself back into work, picked up old hobbies I had neglected, and slowly rebuilt the independence that had always been a part of who I was. As for Cheryl, I heard through family friends that she had her baby, a little girl. They said she was managing getting by on her own. I sincerely hoped she would find her way, that she would grow strong as a mother in the way she hadn't as a sister.